ReZero, Side Story, Mimi Pearlbaton's Bite of Love and Passion, Chapter 1.
The moment she caught a glimpse of that person, lightning rumbled and thundered throughout Mimi's entire body. Whoa, huh? What are you staring at, you little pipsqueak? While being struck by the lightning, Mimi easily brushed off the impact and looked at her opponent. It was a blonde boy that had crinkled his nose. He had short hair, sharp jade eyes, jagged fangs that had been forged by chewing on hard objects often, and somewhat of a wild, edgy outfit. Everything about him rumbled and thundered through her. I see. You are quite good. Mimi has liked you quite a lot, huh? Name. You are good to tell your name. Mimi is Mimi. Duper strongest vice capane. Mimi pointed her hands towards the sky and energetically announced her name. The boy was puzzled for a second after he heard her announce her name, but he immediately changed his expression into a competitive one. He proudly hit his chest and shut his mouth, making a loud sound with his fangs. Ha! That's really bold of you to declare yourself the strongest in front of my amazing self. It's the thing called Galeon's Declaration of War, Galeon. I have no idea what that is. Is that your name? Not at all. My amazing self is Garfield Tinsel, Lady Amelia's shield and the perfect guardian. I'm the gorgeous tiger, ooh. That's amazing. Which one is your name? Garfield Tinsel, Garfield. Mimi repeated excitedly. The boy Garfield made various poses by vigorously moving his arms and legs around, making Mimi point her orange ears up and jump up dramatically in the heat of the moment. The staff in her hand slipped out and hit the foot of the slender young man next to her. Ouch! The young man screamed, but Mimi paid him no mind. Garfield. Garfield, don't call my name again and again. What just, ooh. Garfield frowned at Mimi, who'd crossed her short arms and was tilting her head, then looked behind him and screamed. A certain maid was standing there. It was a pretty girl with pink hair and pink eyes. She'd pinched Garfield's waist from behind with a sly glare, not considering the negative impact it had on her prettiness. How long are you going to keep our guests standing at the entrance? Hurry up and show them the way, Garf. Huh, ain't it your job as a maid to show them the way, Ram? You don't get it at all. A man who is good at things should naturally take over the work of a woman who can't do anything. Wait, who are you calling a useless woman? I'm going to smack you. My amazing self hasn't said anything, humph. The maid sneered at Garfield after making an unreasonable demand. Mimi's eyes widened with surprise at the exchange of words occurring in front of her and then jumped, landing on the foot of the young man who had picked up the staff. Not again. He screamed tearily. Mimi, not seeming to care, pointed her finger at Garfield. Garf. Garf seems better. Mimi will call you that too. Garf it is. Hey, only my family can call me. Ah, she's seriously throwing me off my game. The hell is she? She's a guest, Ram informed him. A rather cuddly-looking one at that. Garfield roughly scratched his head, his expression a mixture of caution and confusion. Mimi nodded repeatedly as she watched the girl next to her hugging her elbows. Garf, Mimi repeated the short yet pleasant sound under her breath. She rolled the lightning that had struck her heart and felt the pleasant sensation of playing catch with it. This is probably the thing that Roshi was talking about. Rumble rumble booms passion. That was Mimi's first impression of Garfield, which she kept forevermore.
Chapter 2.
Mimi Pearlbaton was the eldest among the three siblings, which essentially made her the strengthiest by default. It didn't quite make sense, but that was okay to Mimi. She was the elder sister to her two brothers Hetaro and Tivi, so she was obligated to protect them. Since she needed to protect them, she needed to be the strengthiest. That was her logic. The eldest sister always being the strengthiest at everything was the philosophy that made Mimi the person she was. It was a conclusion that both the pink-haired maid and the blonde maid would strongly agree with. In fact, Mimi had been following that logic and living full of vigor to this day. All of this is thanks to Malady Anastasia, who has given us three a job and a house to live in. And because of Ricardo, who's like a parent to Anastasia. And it's also thanks to everyone in the Iron Fang. Mimi will include Julius and Joshua in it, too. Joshua might cry if Mimi forgets about him, so it can't be heppled. And Mimi was about to forget, but Roshi's existence is pretty big for Mimi since he taught us a lot of things in the beginning. Roshi is a strange old man who saved Mimi and Mimi's brothers when we were wandering around the slums and on the verge of dying. He's something of a savior to us. If it hadn't been for Roshi back then, it would have not ended well for Mimi. As Mimi recalls, Tivi was about to get caught by the kidnappers and Mimi somehow stopped it but got stabbed in the belly by Mimi's opponent. Mimi got stabbed 4 times, and Mimi was still 2 years old, so Mimi was only at the beginning stage of being the strengthiest, so even Mimi was in a near-death situation. While they were running for their lives while Hetaro was dealing with a stomach wound as bad as Mimi's, an old man suddenly appeared in front of Mimi when her wound started to feel better. Please save, big bro and elder sis. Mimi remembers Tivi crying and screaming with his elder sister and brother on his back. Even Mimi felt regret after hearing that. Since it's a failure of the elder sister to make the younger brother cry. That was the only time Tivi had ever cried like that. Whenever Mimi asks Tivi about that time, he responds with, "There wasn't such a time, there wasn't." He is a forgetful child. Mimi is getting way off topic. Anyway, the old man who appeared was Roshi. He took the 3 of us, who were worn out in many ways, to his shack, tended to our wounds, and fed us. Well, there isn't any deep meaning behind it, Roshi said. It's just that I felt like I want to live a life that the sun would be proud of, so I couldn't leave the 3 dirty cats abandoned on the street behind. Roshi, who had picked up Mimi and her siblings, laughed with his dirty clothes and his ugly face with a chipped tooth. After that, the 3 cats and Roshi's life began somehow. The 3 of them didn't know anything, as they were just kittens. The 3 kitten siblings were taught the means to survive by Roshi, who was very knowledgeable. The energetic Mimi was taught how to fight. The kind Hetaro was taught how to live cautiously. And the wise Tivi was taught knowledge regarding various things. Roshi had always said that it would help the 3 of them in the future. There was something else he said often. Roshi often talked about 3 important things. Listen, Mimi. Don't talk bad about people. And don't be someone who breaks promises. Just one more thing, have one thing that you're second to none in. Why Thaug? It's obvious. A person who talks bad about others will end up being alone. It's far wiser to not speak a bad from the beginning. A person who breaks promises will also end up being alone. So, it's obviously better to follow this advice. And the last one is, you'll see tons of good and bad things while you're alive. You might only see the bad things in the people you are with, but it can't be helped. But it isn't like everything about that person is bad. Humans are just a cluster of flaws. So, be the best you can be at one thing, and that will, and tat will, give you full points. My cute, dirty, cat daughter, you will be able to be a full point. After saying that, Roshi smiled, showing off his chipped teeth. His teeth were yellow, his face was full of wrinkles, and his white hair seemed like it hadn't been washed in a while and reeked, but Mimi liked that smiling face. And the word full point made her heart flutter. She felt like a full point was something amazing. A woman who'll become a full point, Mimi. So, what if it was 100 things instead? Mimi asked. If it can be a full point, then what would it be if there were 100? Would Mimi be more amazoning than Roshi? Ah ha ha ha, ha ha ha. That sounds amazing. 100 you say? 100 things that you are second to none in. In that case, if one can give you a full point, then 100 things will make you 100 full points. Ooh. 100 full points. That sounds really amazoning. Mimi would be a giant ameng men. As Mimi puffed her chest and hopped dexterously, Roshi slapped his knee. The walls of the shack broke and tilted, but the 2 at the moment didn't care about it. Roshi picked up Mimi and held her high in the air and said, "Listen, 100 full points, daughter. You may have many things happening in your life from now on, but don't forget my teachings, and keep up that high spirit of yours." Well, it's not something that I need to tell you. Yeah, you don't need to tell me. Da ha 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 ha. Oh wait, You need to stop laughing like an idiot like that. Since you won't be able to grasp hearts that way, grasp hearts. What's that? Mimi is strong so everything can be grasped easily. Whoa, this has nothing to do with strength. But it's difficult to explain. And on top of that, I guess it's parental love? It makes me feel deeply uneasy when I think about whether you'll be able to grasp hearts or not. Bloody hell, bloody hell. Mimi mimicked Roshi's energetic voice and waited for him to continue. Seeing her wait, Roshi scratched his nose, looking uncomfortable, and continued. Whatever, the hell with it. Listen, Mimi, I won't feel like explaining it no matter what. But you'll know it anyway when the time comes. Oh, you know what lightning is, right? The one that goes rumble rumble boom? Yeah, that. A time will come when the lightning makes your chest go rumble rumble boom. That's a sign, so hold on to it tight and don't let it escape. Tight. What should I not let go of? Hair, Roshi laughed at Mimi's question. And after taking a pause, he smiled at her with his chipped teeth. It's obvious the thing called fate.
Chapter 3.
And so, the rumble rumble boom has happened, and this is Mimi's fate. Mimi hasn't asked about it in detail, so Mimi doesn't know much about it, but if the person who has made the rumble rumble boom happen is Mimi's fate, then Mimi's fate is Garfield. Stare. While shaking her legs on the sofa in the drawing room, Mimi observed Garfield sitting opposite her. Mimi has been looking at him for a while now, but his impression hasn't changed. It hasn't changed, but Mimi's heart is pounding passionately. Fate is something to be feared. Mimi thought that Mimi was just going to be Joshua's guerd, but Mimi has stumbled upon something huge. Nom, Mimi? I want you to stop chewing on my sleeve, ooh. Joshua's clothes are kinda damp. What happened? You chewed on it. What on earth is up with you? You've been acting weird for a while now. Joshua was sitting next to her and making a fuss while swinging his drool-soaked sleeve. A kid who isn't calm in someone else's house isn't a good kid. That's what Melody had told Mimi. Mimi sighed. Joshua, don't be too noisy, all right? We didn't come here to play, she said, urging him to take the situation into account. Joshua's thin shoulders trembled, and he reluctantly hung his head. Arg. I have a lot of things to say, but you are right about this. The silver-haired girl in front of them, Emilia, laughed when she saw how the two of them were acting. Aha, you two are really close, aren't you? It felt funny watching you two. I'm embarrassed to show you such a thing as a messenger, Joshua said with reddened cheeks. The young man in green sitting next to Emilia lowered his brows at that. No, don't worry about it. It might not be the right thing to say, but I feel closer to you this way. Joshua became more timid after hearing that, and Mimi nodded as if she knew what was happening. Joshua is thin and weak, so Mimi has to protect him as a guerd. Julius has told Mimi to make sure that he doesn't push himself too hard. Mimi accepted Julius' request, saying it can't be helped. Just like how Mimi is the eldest sister, Julius is also an elder brother, so he carries a lot of burdens too. So, Mimi is going to concentrate on being a guerd and, yo, pipsqueak. Do you have some business with my amazing self? Whoa. Mimi had been staring at him, and, unable to focus at all, kept looking away. She was startled and jumped when the person who was the reason behind that spoke to her up close. Garfield, in front of her, had his eyes wide open in surprise. What's wrong with you? ? Why did Mimi just jump? Everything is a mystery. Ha, the hell are you saying? I don't get you at all. Hey, Garfield said, smiling lethargically. Mimi thought of that as his ferocious smile and became more and more restless. And then, excuse me. I had Petra go get Barusu just now. He will eventually. Oh my, hiya, Mimi shouted. At the exact moment the pink-haired maid opened the door, Mimi slipped through her side and jumped into the hallway. The maid raised her eyebrow at the suddenness of the situation, but Mimi's back kept giving farther and farther away. What was all that about? Ram asked. My amazing self has no idea either. And wouldn't it be dangerous to leave her like that? Who knows what that little pipsqueak will do inside the manor? The maid scowled with her well-defined brows at Garfield's words. Then she glared at him, looked out of the room once, and closed the door softly. "Hey, Ram? The hell are you thin, Gar-oo?" When Garfield challenged her decision, the maid flicked his forehead and sighed in exasperation. "Shut up, Garf. She isn't going to do anything bad even if we leave her be, it's simply that it was getting hard for her to be here." Garfield, Emilia, and Joshua tilted their heads after hearing her words. Only the young man in green was smiling wryly, which the maid sneered at it. "Ah well, leaving aside Lady Emilia, you men are so inconsiderate. Why was I given special treatment?" Emilia tilted her head, and the maid didn't respond. She just recalled the side profile of the small kitten human girl as she slipped by her and ran to the other side of the closed door. "I'll keep the fact that her face was as red as an upper to myself," Ram thought. That was her own way of showing mercy as a fellow maiden in love.